Welcome to our webinar, Using AI for Successful Projects, the Portfolio Leader's 3-Step Plan. If you enjoy this topic, please explore our YouTube channel for more videos and follow us on LinkedIn to be in the know for event announcements and speaking engagements.
Welcome, everybody. We're here to talk again today about just changes in the landscape in project and portfolio management and what portfolio leaders can do about those things. And the advent of AI is just adding another layer onto all of that. But it really is augmenting kind of direction where things were already going with portfolio management and project management in general. And we'll talk about how those things can dovetail today. So first, let's talk about the importance of advancing our portfolio management capabilities into what we call more strategic portfolio management in today's business environment and why we might want to do that. One is we have increasing complexity in our business environments. They become more complex, more uncertain. We got to manage risk better. We got to optimize portfolio, and more importantly, we have to make sure that everything that we're doing is aligned with the strategic goals of the organization overall, that we're working on the right things. Hence, there's a greater need for financial and resource optimization. Not only do we have to select the right things so that we're delivering the right things with the right value, we have to make sure that we're applying our limited financial and human capital and human resources on the right things and identify and prioritize the most critical things to put them on to maximize the value, maximize the return on investment. And then there's a lot of factors to consider these days to be effective in this digital age, in this age of digital transformation and the business transformations that go along with that. We have to have more complete data for data-driven decision making, so that we're not just doing things by gut feel. We have to have complete information at our fingertips as quickly as we possibly can, so we can make the right decisions to align and achieve our strategic goals. And then not all work is the same. And there's adoption of Agile, various forms of Agile and other project management methodologies and frameworks. That means that we have a diversity of data out there, diversity of planning types and different constituencies that look at things in different ways. And we have to be able to aggregate all that together so that we can do comprehensive portfolio management across it all and do things like minimize or eliminate duplication of effort and make sure that we're doing the right things. And then on top of that, this whole age of digital transformation is forcing our leadership to cope with and assess emerging technologies and new potential business models, ways to reach our customers, ways to deliver what we do and deliver value to the marketplace. And so these provide challenges and opportunities both. And we have to be able to evaluate and prioritize these opportunities to make sure that we're maximizing our opportunities and not falling behind our competition. So once again, there's a lot of dimensions to this now, rather than just what are our list of projects and how are they doing. So first and foremost on this is aligning strategy with execution. We're going to talk about AI in this context today, and that it requires your business strategists or your business leaders to identify and communicate that strategy uniformly across the organization. And then those executing the change have to understand that and deliver so that we can get the true business value that we seek. So it involves the people, the strategy itself, and the operations of executing on all of this. So it's a system and a process of developing strategy, building plans, aligning our entire organization, because more and more we're doing pervasive things that impact cross-functionally a lot of different places, if not all places in our organization. And then as we build these plans and execute on those projects, et cetera, we need to monitor and learn and test and adapt as we go to make sure that we increase the value we deliver by executing the right strategy and executing it well. That's going to be a theme for today. And then the components that we have to consider today. I think we've always had to, in some degree, consider these things, but by really making them visible and understanding, it's more than just the strategies themselves and the projects themselves. There are, products and applications and et cetera that we are dependent on in this digital age to deliver, things functionally that we have outputs for our projects. Business capabilities that we have and processes may have to be re-engineered or totally revamped in order to take advantage and maximize the opportunity and the value that we're delivering. And then Many organizations today are doing value stream management and doing things on a more continuous delivery basis. So the idea here is there's other components in here that we have to factor in. So leadership, develops and needs the strategic portfolio management, SPM, to support enterprise-wide strategy to execution alignment and then adapting to that. Then we have to define the strategy and the desired outcomes and the value that we're looking to get, and then map those elements that we see over in the diagram on the right so that we factor in the needs to modify or to develop the business capabilities, the digital and physical products, the applications, and the projects themselves we have to deliver. So we have to capture and define these things, and we have to execute on them well and factor in the core functional assets of our organization that we need to do. So the roles are leadership, who sets the direction, our IT or functional management, who owns the critical assets in the organization, and then we have the execution teams, our project teams, our portfolio leadership that helps deliver these projects as specified. And strategic portfolio management practices, a strategic portfolio leader really has to do these things to be effective. They have to adapt portfolios to market changes, so we have to be responsive. We have to build next generation talent, and we're going to talk about that today with things like, how do you embrace AI, for example. We have to forecast and address resource capacity gaps so that we don't set ourselves up for failure, committing to things that we can't deliver on. And all these other aspects in here have to be addressed in order to do full strategic portfolio management. So let's talk about AI. It's coming fast and furious. It came on just like a storm. Since ChatGPT with OpenAI on the back end of that, went general availability to the public in November 2022. The time it took to reach 1 million users was 5 days, which was dramatically more than any of the popular technologies that we see out there for adoption out there. So it's just like caught like a wildfire. And there's common use cases that people are using personally using ChatGPT. They're putting in prompts to get guidance and analysis and do research and get advice and on solving problems and other things like that. So people are using it for their own personal needs, whether it's inside or outside of the office or inside or outside of the work environment. Now the risks and rewards, the capabilities, I think many of us are already finding value for that, in generating content, and some people are helping it to generate and or optimize software development code, etc. But there's risks and misuses. I mean, right now, sometimes you get different answers with even the same prompts. There's the potential for misinformation and deep fakes, and there's always bad actors out there that might try to find ways to misuse this stuff. But the risks versus the rewards, I think the rewards are great enough that we just need to learn how to manage and guard against the risks and misuses in order to get that value. But I think for us in the project and portfolio management world, I think the key thing to do is to cut through the Gen AI hype. We read a lot of things every day that come out about AI, and some of it's very futuristic, some of it's where it's going, some of it's more theoretical and philosophical, right? But what are the practical things we can do? What is the hype versus what we can actually take advantage of today, right? So in that vein, we must identify its business and functional implications for us fast in our disciplines and our roles within our organizations. Because Gen AI, it's not if, it will impact your strategic portfolio management lifecycle, whether you choose to go down that road or not. So prepare now for 4 impacts to ensure effective strategic planning and execution moving forward as this starts to take hold. So let's talk about some of those impacts on strategic portfolio leaders. One is the emergence of, as I said, Gen AI in the workplace and in general public creates immediate and knowledge skill gaps. For example, if others in your organization that aren't, say, on your teams or yourselves are building skill sets and leveraging those in your organization, if we leave that unaddressed, it will negatively impact our ability to accelerate and optimize our strategic planning and execution in a portfolio management realm. We don't want to get left behind. We don't want to get caught flat-footed. Also, because this is a hot new technology, those in the digital age, we're going to see more demand, requests, ideas coming in our intake pipeline. that have to do with Gen AI and with AI, right? And we have to have methods to quantify, qualify, and quantify these things in the pipeline with these competing investment ideas so that we can select the right things for our organizations to work on, and so we can manage and prioritize in the mix of the already voluminous projects that we get, or ideas for projects that we get. Strategic portfolio leaders, as we talked about, need complete information in order to make decisions. Well, oftentimes we lack the partnerships or access to the data, or the ability to acquire the necessary data easily so that we can use it to make data-driven decisions along the way. So we have to, find ways to get that done within our organization. And then our delivery teams will experience dramatic changes in their responsibilities as AI takes hold and takes on some functions of what we do. It's going to augment what we do and hopefully free us up to do more high-value things within our organization. And then we got to rethink the job descriptions and the roles and the expectations we have of our people within the portfolio management and project management realms. Now, portfolio management leaders do not need to take unnecessary risks here or get ahead of the curve, okay, with these Gen AI investments. But doing nothing now is very risky and will lead to missed opportunities. Instead, we need to create a practical adoption plan that features 3 main steps to Gen AI business value. Now, the Gartner Group has done some studies on this and has actually written a paper on this. And some of the key findings that we highlight in here is that portfolio management leaders by their nature are pragmatic and practical people. They do not chase new trends or business fads. And so, many of them are applying a more cautious wait and see approach to this, choosing to wait for Gen AI to go mainstream when we're responding to, and deciding they're going to respond when that occurs, right? So it's okay to be cautious and conservative. However, but whether portfolio management leaders have a plan for Gen AI adoption or not, it will continue to go more mainstream in the workplace. And it can have both positive and negative impacts on you and the things that you're trying to do within your organization in the areas of project and portfolio management. So we need to have proper preparation in place. And then access to Gen AI across the enterprise will create challenges for portfolio management leaders as we try to harness that and make sure that we're thought leaders and just leaders in general on where the organization goes and the way we execute on projects and align with strategic planning. So some recommendations here: close the gaps as quickly as possible. Make sure that your staff is trained. Make sure that they're familiar with how to leverage the things that they can do with Gen AI today, and exploit that for potential strategic portfolio management gain. Now, create a process and checkpoints and a method for assessing and evaluating the Gen AI portfolio demand that we talked about is going to come in from executive and senior leadership and from others in your organization, so that we can not just get swept up in the hype, but let's just say selectively pick the things that are right for us and our organizations, which is going to be different for each organization. And identify the types of data that you're going to need and find a way to bring those together so that Gen AI can leverage that data and leverage you in your assessment and your decision-making process to make better decisions as we go forward. And since those roles are going to change within your departments, within your spheres, let's document what those are and evolve those and document what those roles and responsibilities are and should be, and what those expectations are for your people as we move forward. So the first 3 steps, according to Gartner, right, is we need to adopt a proactive vision and an approach to this using 3 main steps. And in the graphic to the side, it says identify and close those gaps like we talked about. So let's figure out where the gaps are in our understanding, our knowledge, and our skills, and let's try to close those. Or in a way to deal with, that new pipeline of intake that may be coming in that's AI related. Let's enable and partner with others in the organization to make sure that we are all rowing in the same direction and we have access to the data that we need to make the best use of these technologies. And then later and much later, it says in here, accelerate and advance. So once we get the fundamentals, we get the blocking and tackling down, let's then incrementally advance as our skills grow and as we get better at this and we find new opportunities and applications for how to use this technology. Let's create a practical Gen AI investment plan, right? So that we don't get caught flat-footed when the inevitable mainstream Gen AI adoption happens within our own companies and our enterprise. And then track the Gen AI adoption in your enterprise to anticipate and overcome any emerging challenges they may present to you in portfolio management, right? So we want to make sure that we're leading and we're not the tail being wagged by the dog. Now, the technologies that we do to do this, you're going to need some things to help you embody all this. And we are going to talk today about OnePlan that provides a path to strategic portfolio management and the leveraging the use of AI across this. So a complete solution across the enterprise, having strategic plans for the business leaders so they can outline, execute, and communicate those strategies across the organization with objectives and key results or OKRs, or defining of value streams or whatever it might be. That is something that needs to be part of an overall SPM solution. The execution leaders, regardless of their execution methodology, whether it be more traditional waterfall stuff, whether it may be more adaptive things that are more multiple methodologies and frameworks and multiple tools, whether it's professional services automation, more agile approaches, or more product development methodologies. We have to be able to pull these things together in execution and accommodate them and account for those things in a common solution. And then the functional leaders, the ones that have those assets we talked about, be able to define some light enterprise architecture to understand what those components are and those assets are that we have to factor in to be successful. What applications in our application portfolio, where they're at and how they impact what we're trying to do, as well as also the products that we're delivering, et cetera. And any other assets that we have. It's going to analyze not only what it knows from Azure OpenAI and what we've trained it on the discipline and on OnePlan itself, it's transactionally going to look at all the data that you have in here in OnePlan and factor that into its response to you. So for example, here it says to determine which 3 projects, it's giving you an outline of what method it's using to analyze this and give you its answer on votes, priority, and ROI. Given that, it's basically now telling us that the first one is digital transformation, which has the highest number of votes, highest priority, biggest return on investment, cybersecurity audit based on the parameters that are in here, and the mobile application development based on those data points that we asked for. And it says it does not have the highest ROI in listed projects. Its inclusion is justified by a combination of relatively high prioritization score. It's giving the rationale of why it added it in when it maybe wasn't intuitively obvious as to why it should be in there and its relative importance to the rest of the organization. So once again, these are the types of things you can do at any different point in the tool set, right? Now there's the portfolio management aspect of this, where as you decide to work on portfolios and you accept things into your overall active portfolio, we come into OnePlan and we have the ability to flexibly identify this and come in and build a plan type hierarchy whereby we have programs, projects, epics, right? And there may be features under those epics if we're doing more agile things. But the key is you can define what your portfolio hierarchy is. And here we have multiple portfolios for different parts of the organization, right? As we go through here, and let me just open up one of them, I can see the projects and epics within this program under the data analytics transformation program. And you can see a few things. You can see a list of them, and you can also see icons over in the left. So when we talked about connecting to other tool sets, here's some that are connected to Microsoft Teams for additional content and collaboration. Other planning tools like Microsoft Planner and Smartsheet, Azure DevOps, Microsoft Project Professional, Monday.com, Asana. These are all feeding into the OnePlan portfolio, along with things that have no planning tool associated with them. That means that the planning is being done right here in OnePlan by itself. So the key there is we can work with this in a variety of different ways. And we have views, or these list views that we're looking at here, that you can look at in a variety of different ways as well. For example, I could come in here and say, let me just look at a summary view without the hierarchy shown here. But even though I might have a primary plan type hierarchy, I could look at and summarize it in a variety of other ways. Say I put a piece of metadata on our projects about what business unit they're associated with. And as I expand that out, I can now look at the portfolio grouped and summarized by the individual business units, or on the dime, I could just say, hey, we've categorized our projects by different project types and look at it in a different slice. And we can come in here and say, all right, I'm looking at how this is done, and here's our business transformation projects, our compliance projects, our IT projects, our innovation projects, et cetera. And any other metadata that we have against our projects can be a grouping, filtering, sorting parameter that we might want to use in our portfolio, okay? We also have snapshotting of data so that we can come in here and look at trending. So for example, if we're snapshotting data as we progress over the life cycle of a project, and we can start tracking what things we want to trend, and then look at views where things are trending good, bad, or indifferent across the different metrics we have across all this. And then if you're a more agile organization that looks at boards, we have a portfolio board that allows us to look at things. Here I've got by the state of the project, of where we're at in the life cycle. The coloring of the cards is based on its status. Once again, we can go in and look at any one of these things and look at the details around, say, why this market research one is red at any given point in time, just by quickly looking at that, and not just looking at the high-level data that's on the card. And we can look at a variety of other things that adds things like swim lanes. If I was going to look at something like, status, health by goals, I might look at a one that's got the goals themselves at the top, and then the status, what's on track, what's at risk, and what's off track in swim lanes through here as well. And then the roadmap views is also a natural output here. If I want to look at this by a roadmap that's by, say, by business unit, for example, or if I wanted to look at it, one that's that has at a high level, maybe events up above that tying them up with program increments in our agile planning, or certain events that we're trying to actually key to. The idea there is that this is live data that we can get to at any given point in time. So for example, this data warehouse migration, I could just go to it and I could say, let me just drill into the details of that. And from whatever view, that roadmap view, this is live data, not just some artifact that we drew in a PowerPoint or some other tool. So within data warehouse migration, we have the details that might have come across in the idea stage, like the business case information, the metadata and the characterizations we have, the life cycle, right? Or the stages we have for our projects, right? Going down through, how we prioritize this and what score it had, what project schedule we have, what financial status is on, plan versus actual, how we're doing on effort, some of the trending on the KPIs that we have is here, et cetera. The key there is that you can define what data you want to capture. It's a completely configurable form, though we give you a base template to start with, okay? Then we also have a work plan. As I go into the work plan, this is where, we're doing the details. In this particular case, in the work plan, I might be looking at a schedule work type, right? And if I expand this out, you'll see that I have a hierarchical schedule, more waterfallish in its nature. I can bring in a Gantt chart depiction of that if I like at any given point in time. But I also could connect this with, I could build this from templates, or from the AI can actually help build it, which I'll show you an example in a little bit here. But I could also connect it to a variety of different tools that I've enabled here with connectors, that if the source was another project management tool, I could do that as well. The other piece is, just like we have plan types in our portfolio, we've got different work types. So for example, more of a backlog work type that we might have for more agile types of projects or efforts, right? We might have, be able to show sprint-based planning in here and look at the sprints that we have associated with those types of things. And we could connect to more agile-oriented tools like Jira and Azure DevOps if we wanted to make those things happen, right? On top of that, we have issues, risks, changes, key decisions, and you can even add your own in your own configuration if you like, for things like lessons learned and other things we've seen people build, right? We also have a resource plan in here. So where people can build their resource plans on a project by project basis. Let me just go to this being a project that's planned for 2025. Here's the resource plan out in 2025 with the both generic resource types and or named individuals that we put on there. And we can plan in terms of hours, percentage of complete, FTEs, et cetera. And these can be planned from the top down, even before we have a schedule, or from the bottom up based upon the tasks that we assign resources to. And all this is going to feed into an overall resource plan, which we'll show you in a few minutes. Now, the financial plan, where we actually have detailed financials, whether it be, budget, revised forecast, actuals, etc. And we can even do comparisons in here if we're looking at this. And I can say, let me look at the forecast to the budget and see where the revised forecast may be falling out of bed with what our original assumptions were in the budget, for example. And the actuals can even be pulled from your financial system with our integration technology that we're using. So the idea there is that you can get a full financial picture in here as well. Okay. I guess the other piece on the status reporting, we talked about the fact that you could actually have status reports and these formats built to your specification. We have templates you can get started with, but to pull in the objective data automatically and then put a place in there where you can put your own narratives in here for the status report. And when you submit it, it will save a history of these over time and snapshot that data so that you can actually have a history of those things for trending, and also putting that data out to either a PDF or Word, or put it out in the body of an email if you like. Once again, saving a bunch of time and effort in these areas. Okay. The other aspect is aggregating all that resource planning into one central resource plan. And so if I look at this and I look at resources, say by role, and I look into the developer role, and once again, let's just say I look at this in terms of full-time equivalents after we planned it in hours, I can basically see that, all right, I'm in pretty good shape here in this resource plan, but it looks like I have one particular resource that's over allocated in a period of time, of Toby Stevens. And if I come in and look at Toby, I can come in here and I'd say, he's got too much going on in this period, and I wanted to say, let me find let me see if I can get somebody else that could do that work for him and look for candidates that have a good match for him to replace him on that. And out in that time frame, it looks like I have a number of different candidates that I could select here, like Erlich Bachman, and say replace him on that project and do the balancing I need to do all here in one place. I could also use this method to say, take generic names and say, I've still got generic developers still assigned here, and I still haven't put a name to this, and I got to get somebody on that. I can still use that candidates list, find either by best match, or since I'm looking for a developer, let me check by role this time. And let me say, let me find what developers I have that have the availability there. And I might even have some sub skill sets here. And I can basically come in here and say, it looks like maybe Jared Dunn has the availability to do that and is from the same business unit. So let me replace him with that. So once again, good resource management as we go through that. So there's a lot more detail around that we can go into with you if you want to engage with us a little further. And then there's our modeler. We talked about what if analysis. And if I go into the IT 24 project planning analysis, this is where you might build a model where you have these candidate projects. In this case, I've got 39 of them that I'm looking at doing. And I might go in here and look and see, do I have the dollars or the resources to do that? And then I can do different scenarios where I might say, okay, let me put a $10 million limit on this. And let me select projects that fit within that limit. In this particular case, since I used dollars as the constraint, here I have a bunch of projects that I selected, ones that were deselected, that all come underneath a $10 million budget that I have, right? And I could select and deselect things as I need to, to make those things happen. Just like I can come in here and I could actually interject a Gantt chart into here, and I could actually take this and not only just select or deselect, but I could drag and move projects to different timeframes or different quarters or different months and have it adjust and come up with a solution for my plan based upon timing and selection of those particular projects. The same thing holds true on the resource side. If I want to put a resource constraint on here, and it looks like I'm in pretty good shape on the resource, I got a lot of green in here. And then as I do different scenarios, I think I might have done a $15 million one, etc., I can then analyze the multiples that I've done and see where I'm at. On the $10 million one, it says I could do 19 projects and I could get $36 million worth of benefit. Now for another $5 million, it says I can do 8 more projects and I might get another $20 million in benefit. Is it worth my while to go find some additional stuff to do that? And I even have another scenario here where I can do 34 of them with $62 million of benefit, right? But it takes $16 million of things that I want to do. So once again, I can evaluate different alternatives. And we can even use things like our visualizer in a different way in how things are related. I can look at what I've selected in this scenario and see what unselected predecessors and successors are being left out and see if there's anything critical that we need to reconsider on when I do that, as well as looking at our traditional bubble charts where we might come in here and look at all the different things around that, see what we've selected and where they cluster here on prioritization, as well as overall benefits in here. And I can even interject the ones we didn't select and see if there's anything, any outliers or things that fit into the sweet spot that we might want to reconsider as well. So once again, a lot of analysis stuff in here that we can do on the modeling side, okay? So there's a lot more that we can do. You know, I talked about the my work and the timesheets, and we'll save that for another time. But I do want to go back and take a look at some scenarios in AI. For example, let's just say we were building a strategic plan and we're looking for some suggestions on OKRs for, say, an enterprise PMO that we're looking to implement. I'm going to run this and I'm going to ask it that question and give it that prompt. And as I do that, it's going to, you know, based on its knowledge and what it's been trained, it's giving me some objectives and some related key results. Improve efficient use of resources, enhance project delivery capabilities, etc. Once again, it's having me not start from scratch, and I can add or remove or do what I like with this. But once again, it's giving me a huge head start and time savings on this. You could also then ask it to give key results for a specific objective in the same fashion. You could ask it to identify patterns, opportunities, and potential risks. And as I go in here, I'm looking at the strategic plan and I'm asking it to identify patterns and risks. And after that, it's basically telling me that I have some patterns in the plan, some opportunities to improve customer excellence and transform corporate culture and other areas, and some other risks that I might have, and identifying that for me. Portfolio optimization, it might do some analysis for me of an overall summary of portfolio data. In this particular case, I'm going to ask it to please provide a summary of the portfolio itself. And here it's giving me some synopsis of the statistics and the metrics that are in here, right? And then it's also going to give me some narrative around that as far as how we're doing on that qualitatively along the way. And it can ask a follow-on question of asking me which projects are at the highest risk and explain why. And here it's giving me an assessment of which projects, in this case to support customer using mobile, is the highest risk that it sees. We can do the same thing on budgets and dollars to help optimize. And like I said, rank plans by highest risk of failure. Finding data anomalies in the portfolio, okay, and finding out where things don't line up. Work management. For example, what about building business cases, right? In this particular case, I could come in here and say, based upon the data and metadata I put in here around the project so far, or the idea, right? I can say, can you help me write a business case for this? And this might just be at the idea stage that we're doing this. And then it can help me with what I've already given it, give me a sample business case for what we're doing and help write that narrative for us. In this particular case, it'll start writing that and actually put it together for us in business case format. Here's the description piece, right? There's the business case narrative, the value statement, etc., and allow us to actually work with it in those regards and basically augment what we have without starting from scratch. I know we're running short on time, but for example, what if we just built a new project plan and put a portfolio item in there and we don't have a schedule? Maybe we've not done this before. And I could come in here, for example, and I could say, you know, help me build a schedule for this smart home automation system that we're looking at. And as we come through, this is one where it's going to say basically I can build a new plan and put a work plan in. And instead of using a predefined template that we might already have, because OnePlan does have the ability, as you can see here, to have pre-built templates that you put in here and store, I could actually use the AI to break new ground for me here and say, help me build a schedule on this thing we haven't done before. And now it's building a schedule that I can choose to keep. I can choose to, you know, map the resources from my resource pool based on the resource types that are in there. and then basically insert the template and have it create a schedule for me as we go through there. And next thing you know, I've got a schedule that I can identify. I could put some more different dependencies in there. I could change durations based upon my estimations and those types of things. But once again, it's something that's an assistant from AI. Creating and detailing a new project. I could even take that a little bit further, right? So for example, I could say, just give me a narrative about the project to Sophia. And then Sophia is going to actually create a plan and put some metadata and narrative in there for us based upon the information I gave it in my narrative in that little box in that prompt. And now it's starting me off with some things that are needed in there from the validation plan, acceptance criteria, et cetera. And then once again, we can then go through the schedule piece and actually have Sophia create a schedule for us like we did before. So once again, we can even do more than just create the schedule. We can help in the initiation and the onboarding of a project very quickly. Same thing holds true with identifying risks. The same thing holds true with ranking resources by highest risk and where we're short on resources, et cetera, how many we're going to need, what we might need to hire as far as resources based upon this red resource plan that we have here with lots of red in there, et cetera. And then even the communications and the trends, right? Being able to write summary emails to your manager or status reports. Those are all things that we can do here very quickly. So once again, just expanding your horizons a little bit. So summary and next steps. Hopefully what you heard today is that strategic portfolio management has become important in today's business environment, and mostly because increased complexity and fast pace of change really necessitates this. And AI is advancing rapidly, and we need a plan for its adoption. And hopefully you got some ideas on where you might need that. It's also important to monitor the use of AI in other parts of your organization because it is moving forward without us. And then AI has many applications in portfolio and project management that can greatly augment our efforts. And we just scratched the surface here with some examples for you today. OnePlan does provide an end-to-end strategic portfolio management solution in the Microsoft Cloud that you can use today. And it also has its own AI with Sophia GPT to help you be more effective in those disciplines. Once again, this is what we do. We do project and portfolio management. That's what we live for. We're not a systems integrator. We're not a general software developer. We're recognized by Gartner Group, Forrester, and Infotech Research and Microsoft for the thought leadership that we have. We offer free trials. Feel free to go to oneplan.ai/solutions or Microsoft App Source, and I strongly recommend you get the strategic portfolio management template, which is the full function one. But try a trial, have a roadmap workshop discussion with us if you like at no charge. We'll even do a more detailed, in-depth demonstration for you if you like. Just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai or research more about us at www.oneplan.ai. So with that, I've used the entire hour, and I'd like to thank you for your time and your indulgence today. You know, OnePlan, bringing all this stuff together into one place, we call it the power of one. It's one hub for decision making and for execution, and for just bringing everything into a common single pane of glass. Thank you. We really do hope you engage with us. We love to hear from you, and we're happy to assist you on your investigation of whether OnePlan might meet the needs for you or how you might better use AI in your disciplines today. Have a great day.